The note was taped to my monitor. I hadn't left my desk in 45 minutes. Nobody else had a key to the building. The doors were locked from the inside, and I had watched the last person leave with my own eyes. But the note was there. Yellow sticky note, black pen. 4 words in handwriting I didn't recognize. He's been here longer. Let me take you back. Because what happened in the next 20 minutes is something I still can't fully explain, and I've tried every rational explanation there is. Story 1. The Note. My name is Kara, 26 years old, late-night data entry, empty office building, 3 floors, 12 employees during the day, after 7 p.m., just me. I'd done that shift a dozen times. I knew every sound that place made. That familiarity was exactly what made me slow to notice. It was a Thursday in November, 9:14 p.m. I remember the time because I just checked my phone. My boyfriend hadn't texted back. I set it face down on my desk and got back to the spreadsheet. That's when I saw the bathroom light. It was on. It shouldn't have been. The motion sensor was broken, had been broken for 2 months. You had to manually flip the switch when you walked in. I hadn't used the bathroom yet that evening. The light was definitely off at 7:30 when I did my walkthrough. At 9:14, there was a strip of yellow light bleeding under the bathroom door at the end of the hall. I stood there for a moment, stared at it. My brain ran the checklist. Did I flip it without thinking? The answer was no. But almost certain isn't the same as certain, and that gap is where the first thread of unease starts pulling. I went back to the spreadsheet. 9 minutes later, I got up for water. On the way back, force of habit, I glanced at the bathroom. The light was off. I stopped walking. Motion sensors malfunction. The old buildings do weird things. I listed every explanation I could think of, and every single one sounded reasonable, and none of them made the unease go away. Explanations don't fix the feeling. They just give you permission to keep moving. So I kept moving. That's when I saw the note. Yellow sticky note, pressed onto the frame of my monitor. Not the screen, the frame, which meant whoever put it there had leaned over my desk and placed it deliberately above eye level, right where I'd look first. He's been here longer. I picked it up with 2 fingers, turned it over. Blank on the back. The handwriting was deliberate, not rushed, not scrawled. Someone had taken their time. My heart didn't race right away. That's the thing about real fear. It doesn't always arrive fast. It crawls up through your chest like cold water. I sat for a full 30 seconds just turning that note over, trying to make sense of it. Nobody was here. I had watched Marcus leave at 6:58. I walked him to the elevator. We had a brief, forgettable conversation about the weekend. I watched the elevator doors close. I had the only after-hours key. He's been here longer. Longer than what? Longer than me. Was this a message meant for someone who wasn't there? Was it a joke Marcus had set up before he left? My mouth went dry. I pulled up Marcus's number. My thumb hovered over call. And then I heard something. 3 slow knocks on the wall. Not on a door, on the solid drywall partition between my office and the server room directly across the hall. The one that was always locked. The one nobody went into except the IT guys on Tuesdays. 1, 2, 3. Measured. Even. Like someone testing to see if the sound would carry. Then, nothing. The kind of nothing that's actually louder than sound. I sat completely still. I was aware of my own breathing, aware of the way the chair creaked when I shifted, aware of every small noise I usually tuned out, and now could not. I called Marcus. He picked up on the second ring, voice confused because it was after 9 on a Thursday, and I never called after hours. I told him about the note. I read it out loud. He's been here longer. There was a pause. I didn't leave that, he said. Are you sure? Kara, I don't carry sticky notes. I barely carry a pen. Here's what I found out 2 days later in a conversation that started awkward and ended somewhere between relieved and unsettled. The building's cleaning crew had a separate after-hours access code, a code that wasn't in our employee handbook. One of the cleaners had come in at 8 that Thursday, done the bathroom, which explained the light, and then gone to service the server room, which was on their maintenance checklist. He heard me typing. He didn't want to startle me. He decided to leave a note instead, and because his English was limited, he Googled a phrase. That was what came up. He thought it was friendly, a reassurance. His name was Dominic. He felt terrible. He showed me the Google Translate history on his phone. The knocking was him testing the server room lock, which had jammed. Every detail had a rational explanation, but I asked him about the pen. The note was written in black pen, pressed hard enough to leave indentations, the kind that comes from someone pressing with real intention. Dominic looked at me. "I found the note," he said. "I didn't write it. I thought you had left it." He found it, already there, taped to the monitor frame. He assumed it was mine and left it where it was. The building management conducted a review. No other person was identified as having accessed the floor that evening. Dominic and I spent 20 minutes reconstructing the timeline. We could not account for who wrote it. We never figured it out. I put in my notice the following Monday. Some people hear that and think I overreacted. Maybe. But here's the thing about unexplained things. They stay with you. They live in the back of your mind. And every time you're alone, somewhere quiet at night, they find their way forward again. I still think about that note, the handwriting, the deliberate placement. And I think about who else might have been on that floor that I never knew about. Story 2. The car in the lot. My name is Joel, 31 years old, overnight inventory at a sporting goods warehouse outside Memphis. 3 years without a single incident worth mentioning. That comfort almost got me killed. I mean that literally. It was a Wednesday in February, 1:20 a.m. Only person on site. My manager Kevin had left at midnight after his walkthrough, checked the loading bay, both emergency exits, the security panel. I watched his headlights sweep across the lot and disappear at the turn. I had the only set of keys until the morning crew at 6. The parking lot had 0 cameras. That was a budget issue sitting on the maintenance request list for 2 years. I had submitted the request myself twice with written justification both times. Nobody had acted on it. At 1:20 a.m., I went to the break room to heat up dinner. There's one small window, high on the wall. You can see the employee lot if you stand at the right angle. There was a car parked directly next to mine. Black sedan. No plates. Engine off, but the exhaust was still misting faintly in the cold, which meant it hadn't been there long. 10, 15 minutes at the outside. I stood at that window for a full minute. We watched it the way you watch something you're not sure you're actually seeing. Nothing moved. Nobody got out. The lot was lit by 2 overhead lights, both flickering, both providing just enough visibility to make the shadows look worse. I ran through the explanations. Neighborhood parking, a couple wanting privacy, a rideshare driver killing time. Everyone plausible. Everyone slightly wrong in a way I couldn't articulate. I went back to work, told myself to stop being paranoid. I had a pallet of winter jackets to count. At 2:07 a.m., I walked past that window again. The car had moved, not gone. Moved. It was now parked directly in front of the building's main entrance, the glass double doors at the front. To get there from the employee lot, you had to go around the building's perimeter, or come through the barrier arm, which only lifted with an authorized staff ID card. The barrier arm was down, intact. The car was on the wrong side of it. I stopped moving. I think I stopped breathing. I called Kevin. He picked up on the 4th ring. Groggy. Not alarmed yet. I told him what I was seeing. He was quiet for a moment. "Could the car have been there when I left?" he asked. It wasn't. I had watched him pull out. The lot was empty. "Call 911, he said. "Right now. Don't go outside. Don't open any exterior door. Lock yourself in the inventory room. It's the only interior room with a deadbolt. Go now and keep your phone on." I did exactly that. Called 911. The dispatcher was calm and clear. I grabbed a box cutter off a shelf on the way. Not because I thought it would help, but because my hands needed to be holding something. I locked the deadbolt, sat on the floor behind a pallet of tennis rackets, turned my phone screen off so the light wouldn't bleed under the door. Complete darkness. The warehouse at night has its own specific soundtrack. You learn it over 3 years. Metal Expansion, the HVAC cycling. The distant freeway, 2 miles east but audible when everything else is quiet. Specific creaks from specific locations. I had that whole catalog in my head. At 2:29 a.m., I heard something that wasn't in the catalog. Footsteps on concrete, slow, deliberate, stopping. starting again, moving like someone who knew where they were going, or was checking, methodically, room by room. The footsteps went quiet near the north corridor. Then they got closer. I turned my phone completely off. Pressed my back against the pallet, gripped the box cutter so hard my knuckles ached. The footsteps stopped outside the inventory room door. I held my breath. 30 seconds of nothing. Then a knock. Memphis Police Department. Anyone inside? It took me a full second to trust it. Then I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door, and there were 2 officers standing in the fluorescent light, and I have never been so relieved by the mundane sight of 2 strangers in my entire life. They had found the car. It belonged to a man named Trevor, 43 years old, active warrant for breaking and entering at 3 other commercial properties across the county in the past 6 weeks. Pattern offender. He'd been using parking lots as staging areas, sitting in them, watching, timing routines. They found him behind the dumpster on the north side of the building. He had a crowbar, a Slim Jim, and a folded piece of paper in his jacket pocket. A list of addresses. My warehouse was on it, circled. My car, a 2019 gray Civic, was described next to it. Make, model, color. And next to that, a note in handwriting I didn't recognize. 1 inside. Leaves at 6. He knew my schedule. He had watched me. On some unremarkable night that felt exactly like every other night, I had arrived at that lot, done my shift, driven home, and a man was sitting somewhere in the dark with a piece of paper watching and writing it all down, leaves at 6, like I was a variable in an equation he was solving. Trevor was arrested that night, convicted. Sentenced to 4 years. I didn't quit right away. Worked 3 more weeks. Told myself I was fine, that it was over, that the justice system had handled it. Then one night at 1:45 a.m. I heard a car pull into the lot, and I was on the floor with my back against the wall before my brain had fully processed what my body had already decided. I put in my notice the next morning. I still check my rearview mirror every time I pull into a parking lot. Every single time. Not because I think someone is watching, just because I know, now, that sometimes they are. Story 3. He called the front desk. My name is Renata. This happened 2 years ago when I was 29, working the overnight front desk at a mid-sized hotel in Portland, Oregon. I know what people imagine when they picture it, empty corridors, flickering lights. But the reality, for the most part, is profoundly boring. You check in a late arrival once an hour if you're busy. You watch YouTube with one earbud in and eat your snacks in peace. I genuinely liked it. The quiet. I'm an introvert. Those empty lobbies at 3 a.m. felt like a gift. It was a Tuesday in August. The hotel had 62 rooms, 39 occupied that night. My coworker Bree had been at the desk with me since 11. Around 3 a.m., Danny came in to relieve her. They did the brief handoff in the back office. Danny came out and took the desk. Bree grabbed her bag, waved at me, and left. At 3:15 a.m., the phone rang. Internal line, room 214. I picked up automatically. Front desk, this is Renata. How can I help you? Silence on the line. Not a bad connection. The silence of someone holding the phone and not speaking. Then, is the blonde girl still there? Low voice, uneven, almost conversational, which somehow made it worse, like someone asking about the weather. I was the only one at the desk. I'm blonde. Bree is brunette. Danny is brunette. I felt the temperature leave my body. That's the only way I can describe it. Not a chill, an absence. I'm sorry, I said. My voice came out steadier than it had any right to. The blonde one, at the front desk. Is she still there? I set the phone down. Not hung up. Set it down, keeping the line open, keeping them talking to nothing. Walked to the back office. Tapped Danny on the shoulder. Told her quietly, in as few words as possible, what had just happened. She looked at me, then at the phone. Room 214 is empty, she said. We hadn't sold room 214 that night. I double-checked on the system, but someone had called from that phone. Hotel phones don't dial themselves. They sit in their cradles until a human hand picks them up and makes a deliberate choice to call. Someone had made a deliberate choice. Danny called our night security, one guard, Ramon, covering the whole property solo between midnight and 6. He was on the 4th floor doing his hourly walkthrough. She told him to come to the second floor. Room 214. She kept her voice flat and professional. I stayed at the desk. I didn't want to stay at the desk, but someone had to. The lobby at 3 a.m. carries every sound: the elevator hum, the automatic door sensor clicking when nothing was there, the ice machine dropping a load into the bin, a sound like something falling. I sat behind that desk with my eyes on the entrance and my hand on my phone, and I waited. Ramon checked room 214. Empty. The bed untouched. Bathroom clear. Window locked from the inside. He stood in the doorway and called Danny. "Nobody here," he said, "but the phone is off the cradle." Off the cradle. Not dropped, not knocked. Off the cradle the way it gets when someone places it there deliberately after a call. The guest in room 212 was a business traveler named Mr. Holt, 47 years old, checked in 2 days prior, booked through corporate. Ramon knocked on his door at 3:22 a.m. It took 4 knocks before the door opened. Mr. Holt was dressed, not in pajamas, not rumpled from sleep, fully dressed. Dark shirt, dark pants. He looked at Ramon with the expression of someone who had already decided what their face was going to do before the door opened. "Sorry to disturb you, sir. Did you happen to hear anything from the room next door in the last 30 minutes? Mr. Holt said no. Said he'd been asleep. Said he hadn't heard anything. Ramon noted that he was fully dressed. Ramon noted that room 212 shared a thin wall with 214, the kind that carries sound in both directions. And from the connecting door between the 2 rooms, a door that was supposed to be locked from both sides, there was a faint gap of light. The connecting door to room 214 was not fully latched. Mr. Holt noticed Ramon noticing. His expression didn't change. That was the part that stayed with me when Ramon told us afterward. Not that he got nervous, not that he made excuses. He just looked at Ramon the way someone looks at a problem they've already calculated the answer to. "Must not have latched properly when I checked it earlier," Mr. Holt said. "I heard a noise and checked the other room. It was empty. I came back and went to sleep." Ramon asked when that was. Mr. Holt said he didn't remember exactly. Ramon asked why he was still dressed. Mr. Holt said he sometimes slept in his clothes when he was tired from travel. Every answer was smooth. Every answer was just plausible enough. The kind of answers that don't give you anything to push back against directly. They just sit there, reasonable on the surface, with something underneath that you can feel, but cannot name. We filed a police report. Mr. Holt was informed that the incident was documented. He checked out the next morning, 2 days before his reservation ended, forfeiting the corporate rate on the remaining nights. He left at 6:15 a.m. I watched him walk through the lobby on the camera feed. He didn't look at the front desk. He walked with the purposeful, unhurried stride of someone who had somewhere to be and had been planning to be there for some time. The police followed up once, 3 days later. No evidence of a crime, no proof that Mr. Holt had made the call. The connecting door latch was examined and found functional. It required deliberate force to open from either side. The case was closed. Here's the thing nobody talks about with endings like this. The ones where nothing is proven and nobody is charged and the person just leaves. You don't get closure. You don't get the moment where someone tells you that your fear was valid, that what you sensed in that smooth, unhurried voice was exactly what it sounded like. You just get the gap, the space between what you know and what you can prove. Is the blonde girl still there? He knew I was blonde. He had seen me. At some point, through a lobby window, an elevator, a hallway I don't remember. He had looked at me specifically and filed that information away like something he might need later. And then at 3:15 in the morning, he decided he needed it. I still work in hospitality. Different city, different hotel. I like the quiet of overnight shifts the same as I always did, but I always know which rooms are empty. I check the system at the start of every shift and I memorize it like a map, because I know now that empty on paper and empty in reality are not always the same thing. And when the phone rings at 3 a.m., I let it ring twice before I pick up. I'd be just long enough to remind myself that I get to choose whether to answer. Outro: 3 people, 3 buildings, 3 nights that started exactly like every other night and ended somewhere none of them expected. Kara still thinks about that note. The handwriting she never matched to a person. Joel checks his rearview mirror every single time he pulls into a lot. And Renata lets the phone ring twice now before she picks up. The thing about working alone at night isn't the darkness. You get used to the darkness. It's the moment when something interrupts the pattern, when a light is on that shouldn't be, when a car is parked where no car should be, when a voice on the phone knows something about you that it shouldn't know. That moment, that's the one that stays. If these stories kept you up tonight, you're not alone. Drop a comment below with which one got to you the most. And if you've worked a night shift and something happened that you still can't explain, I want to hear it. Sleep well.